Hi, good evening, and welcome to the show. Friday evenings, you attend the magic show, which teaches you simple things which make you smart and lazy for the rest of your life. Our basic mantra is knowing is not doing, doing is doing. So practice, practice, and practice. How many of you are practicing? Give me a yes in the chat box fast. Good. Some more, sort of. Okay. Good. So as long as you are practicing, you'll become smart and you can then afford to be lazy for the rest of your life. So our basic housekeeping tips, future topics, you have to send me subscribe tech to my telephone number. Past recordings are available on YouTube. My email address is here. Those participants who have given their support, a big thank you. And for those who have not, you can support us at this link. Our promise to the audience was that we will have this session every Friday during the lockdown period. So now, since the lockdown is easing out in different parts of the country and all over the world, because we have people from all over the world. So what we are going to do now is we will have 3 sessions, that is first, second, and third Friday. We will have these sessions. The 4th Friday will be only exclusive for paid subscribers. So paid subscribers will have the exclusive access to the 4th Friday session, where we can do some more stuff on what we have already covered. And maybe we can take questions which can come in advance on the topics we have covered in the current month. Okay. So 3 Fridays are continuing to be free, first 3 Fridays. 4th Friday is going to be for exclusive for paid subscribers. And the 5th Friday, if any, will be my day off. So that will be the structure from now on. Be sure that you remain till the end for the question of the day, where a cash prize is to be won. There was no winner last week, so good luck for today and be ready and sharp. Should I tell you where the question? Yes, I have started recording. Thanks for reminding me. Okay, I will not give you hints right now because then you'll start looking for the answer. So let's wait till the end and we'll run through the question at the end of the session. And my session tips, of course, for those who are regular, you know all the tips. For those who are not, you can just read them on the screen. So last time what we did was we looked at Google Sheets in a very elementary way, the basic entry level. Now this time what we'll do is we'll do a few of the advanced stuff, not really advanced, but something which you will use on a daily basis, which you may not have used before. So let's jump right into the session and we'll go back to our same sheet which we used last time. And can you see the screen, please? The sample sheet. Are you able to see it? Okay, thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. So this was the sheet on which we had worked last time. And we had done some simple stuff like sum and count and average, and we had done some if function. We had calculated interest. We had seen how the dates are to be manipulated, timing is to be manipulated, etc., etc. We had also seen this interesting function where we had translated from the English to Hindi, or you could have done it to any other language. So for those who have already seen our Google Docs session, we had talked about collaboration. So in Sheets also, you can do the same way. You can collaborate. So what we can do here is you can go to any cell. Suppose this entire sheet you are sharing with 100 people or 20 people or whatever. So what you can do is you can leave your comments here. So for leaving a comment, what will you do? You will just say right click and say comment. There is a shortcut also, Control Alt M. When you say comment, what you can do is you can comment on any cell in the sheet. So here we can say this is good. Okay, so sometimes positive comments are also good. And then you may say insert comment, that is right click and add a comment. Why is this so low? Okay, so you can insert comments, and if you see now, there is a small yellow arrow on top of this cell and on top of this cell. These two cells we have put comments. So when there is a small arrow on the top, you know that there is a comment. But then this becomes very difficult to read when you have hundreds of rows and so many columns. So what you can do is you can come up here on the top right next to share. You have an option for seeing the comment history. So whatever comments you have made, they will be visible here. So this is one way of commenting and looking at comments. One is you can see this yellow mark here on the top, or you can come here next to share, there is a comment history. So it says open comment history. So if you say open comment history, you will see all the comments that are there on this sheet. But now more than comments, now you have made a comment and you have expected somebody to respond to this comment. For example, now if I am saying Hari Nimbalkar, I am coming here and I am saying, why is this so low? So Hari Nimbalkar, when he opens this sheet, he will see this comment and he will respond to it. But suppose he doesn't open the sheet at all for the next 5 days or 10 days, and you are in a hurry to know. So what you will do is you will come here. When you add a comment, okay, let me see. I'll say edit a comment. So when you are adding or editing a comment, you can write a lot of stuff here. I'll just put some stuff. Okay, whatever you want to write, it could be an entire paragraph, it could be entire. But now if you want Hari Nimbalkar also to know that I have made a comment, so what you will do is you will put a plus sign. The minute you put a plus sign, you will see all the email addresses here from your Gmail. So if I have to now ask this question to Ashish or Hari Nimbalkar, of course I don't have in my directory. These are coming from my. Now when I say this and say enter the comment, save the comment, what will happen is a mail will go to this person saying that there is a comment in this sheet, sample sheet, the link will be given, please respond. So when I say save, someone needs to access this file, so I can say okay, turn sharing link on, and then I'll say comment. When I'm doing this, automatically a mail will go to this person and he will be told that in this sheet, the link will be given to him, the comment will be marked to him, and which cell the comment is there, that is also going to be sent to him. So you are not going to send a separate mail to this person. You are just saying plus and then giving, whenever I am saying, what is the problem? Again, this I am asking probably to his superior. So I'll say plus and put some email address, and that will go directly to that person. So what happens is whenever you are giving a comment, you can give a comment, it will be visible by an arrow here on top. If you want to see all the comments, you can come on the top right and say open comment history. And if you want to assign the comment to somebody, you will say plus something, and you will get the entire list of email IDs, and automatically an email will go to him. So what you are doing is, by this process, you are not sending a separate mail. Automatically the mail will go from your spreadsheet. He will click on that. Obviously he should be sharing the spreadsheet, otherwise he'll not be able to access it. So he will be able to automatically see where the comment is, come here, and he can respond. So there is no email going back and forth. So this is a very, very easy tool to collaborate. Of course, we know that if I have shared this sheet, there are options to share, which we saw last time. If you say share, you can add people to share, or you can get a link where you can say anyone on the internet will on this link can comment, and so on. So if you share it and then you put a comment, automatically the back and forth emails will be lost, and you will do everything here itself. Now this is very, very easy and cool. So when you say share and you say anyone who has the link can access, no sign in required. There is another way of doing it, and where we say file and then you are saying publish to the web. So when you're saying publish to the web, what you are doing is you are creating a link, and anyone with that link can go and access this file. So if it is a large file, you are dealing with say 500 salesmen, you are not going to send a mail to each and every one. You are only going to send a link and say use this link, and automatically you will be able to access this file. So comments is very useful and very powerful, because then you can collaborate with people. And of course, like we did in Google Docs also, when you are sharing a sheet, obviously two people can be working on the sheet at the same time. I can be working on one part of the sheet, somebody else can be working on another part of the sheet. This we know. Then of course, there is something called a version history. Last time we missed out. When you go to file and you go to version history, how to insert comment? Again, go to any cell, right click and add a comment. Very straightforward. Okay, it's very simple. When you go to file and you see version history, you can see the version history means who has changed this file, when, where, what he has done, etc., is all visible. I think we have covered this last time, where you can go and see what the state of this file was yesterday on 6th of July. On 6th of July at 3 p.m. at 6 p.m. On 3rd July, what was it looking like? I can just click on it and see that this was the state of the file. I can say restore this version and I get back my original. Now this is also very, very powerful, because every change that is made to this file, especially if you are collaborating, or even if you are doing it on your own, even if you are working on the file on your own, you can see the entire version history and you can restore this version, or you can go back to the current file. This is the current file. So this is also a very useful tool when a lot of people are collaborating, or when you are doing it yourself also. Version history is something which is very, very useful. Then we have this small icon on the top. It says see document status. Can you see this? On the top, next to the name, you have a small tick mark which says see document status. This will show you at any point of time what is the status of this particular document. But in addition to this, it also says this document is ready for offline use. You remember we had, in the starting we had said the entire Google infrastructure is on the cloud. So therefore what you are saying is at any point of time you must have internet available. If you don't have internet available, you are not able to work on a particular sheet. Now, when we go here and this document is ready for offline use, what it means is you can edit this document without an internet connection also. Changes will save to drive once reconnected. So this is also automatic. what you do is file, make available offline. When you say make available offline, this entire sheet will be available offline. You can work on it as if you are normally working on the sheet. And whenever you get the internet connection, automatically this sheet will be synchronized. If you don't get this option for the first time, they will ask you to install a small add-on or a small extension. They'll say you install this extension. It says Google Drive offline. Once you install the extension, automatically this will be enabled, and that is a one-time thing. So remember to do this so that even when you don't have an internet connection, you should be able to use Google Sheets. The next thing is, whenever we are looking at all these figures, you have this option to name a range. Remember, what is a named range? So when you are having, this is there in Excel also. So when you have this, suppose this entire range, you want to call it as quarter one. This is Q1. So you want to call it as quarter one. So what you do is, you go to data, named ranges. Okay, so I have already named this as quarter one. It says in the summary field, this is, I'm sorry, in the summary file, this is summary file. D3 to D12 is called quarter one. D3 is this to D12. This is quarter one. Now you can use this name anywhere in the sheet. So when you said this was the sum, you said sum of D3 to D12, correct? This was the formula. Now if you restate this formula, I can just say sum of quarter. Can you see the named range also comes? Quarter one is D3 to D12. So I can just click on it. So I can just say this is the sum of quarter one, and the answer is the same. So for quarter two, I have set summary in the summary sheet. It is E3 to E12. So when I come here, E3 to E12 is the total. So I can just double click this, open this, and say this is the sum of quarter two. Enter. So what I have done is, I have named this entire range as quarter two. I have named this entire range as quarter one. Let us try it out now in real time. If I want to name this range, I will call it quarter three. So I will select the range. I'll go to data, named ranges. It is giving me an option named range one, but I don't want named range one. I want quarter three. And F3 to F12 is what I want. So I'll say done. So now quarter three is this. So now if I want to do any operation on these figures from here to here, instead of typing sum F3 to F12, I will say sum of quarter three. That's all. This is very, very simple to understand. So when you say sum of this, you will say sum of quarter one. Here you will say sum of quarter two, sum of quarter three, sum of quarter four. Similarly, if you want to do count, so what did we do last time? Count of which range? Quarter one. So here you will say quarter one, and automatically there will be a count available. Are we clear on this? How to name a range is very simple. Just select the range, go to data, and go to named ranges, and you will be able to name a range. If you select a range and do a right click, also define named range. This is also possible. So you can do it in both ways. You can go to data, or you can just right click and name the range. So suppose here you want to do quarter four, just right click here, define named range, and you will say quarter four. Okay, so you have named the ranges. Very simple. If you remember, we had done this count business equal to count something. Okay, so count of a range. Now when you say count of a range, suppose I select this range and I say equal to count of this range from here to here. How many people? It says 0. Can you tell me why it says 0? Because there is no numeric in this. When you say count, it always counts numeric cells. Whatever numeric cells are there, it will count. But now if you want to count this, so what you will say is count A, count all. Okay, so when you say count A, even the non-numeric cells are counted. So now this answer is 10, which is the right answer because I want to count the number of people that I have. Is this clear? So count is only the numeric cells or numbers, and count A is for all values, whether it is numbers or it is. Okay, so count and count. Now let us see another interesting function. We did a count. Now I am doing a function called count if. Now this is a conditional counting. Understand this very clearly. So count if quarter 1, that is quarter 1 means what? Now we know that these are the cells in quarter 1 from D3 to D12. So count if quarter 1 comma into inverted commas greater than 100. So count all the cells in this particular range which is greater than 100. So how many cells are greater than 100? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the answer is 6. Now this is a conditional count. Count if. Okay, so what do you do in a count if statement? You say count if, give the entire range, and then you give the condition. It is, if it is greater than 100, you count it, otherwise you ignore it. Okay, so the answer is 6. Similarly, if you want to do a sum of, now here I have said sum if D4 to D12 or quarter 1 is less than 100. So what I have said is sum if. So again, this is a conditional sum. Any cell in D4 to D12, that is in quarter 1, this entire range, if it is less than 100, you sum, otherwise don't sum it. So if you take only those which are less than 100, 45, 55, 58 and 45, then the sum is 203. Okay, so suppose I say sum if anything is greater than 100. So now I got 900, so there is 500. Sorry, sum if, I am sorry. This is the answer, 2404. That is, all those cells which are greater than 100 will be summed. So count if and sum if is giving you this interesting way of conditional sums and conditional counts. Similarly, you can use for average also, average if. Okay, are we clear on this? For count if and sum if, you are selecting a range and then giving a condition. It's as simple as that. Okay, please show syntax of if. So the syntax is sum if into bracket range comma into inverted comma, and then you will give a condition. If it is greater than 100, then show it. If it is less than 100, or whatever the condition you want to put. Just now I have just put a condition of greater than 100, less than 100. Now see, there is another interesting way when you can do a sum if or a count if. See this cell. Now what I am saying is, I'll just open this up. Sum if A3 to A12, that is quarter 1, this to this. Yeah, condition is always to be put in inverted commas because it should know that this is the condition that you are putting. I can't answer why. That is the syntax. This is how Google wants us to do it. Now see this condition. This is very interesting. Sum if A3 to A12, that is, I am taking this range. Okay. A3 to A12. A3 to A12 has Mumbai. Okay. So sum if there is Mumbai in these cells, and what I want to sum is Q1. So wherever there is Mumbai in Q1, you take the sum. So Mumbai is here 500, Mumbai is here 55, Mumbai is here 345. So sum all these and give me the answer. I'm sorry. Mumbai is 345, 55 and 500. Yeah. So this is 400 and 500 is 900. That is the answer. Now see this condition once again. Sum if A3 to A12, that is, if any of these matches this condition, Mumbai, then out of Q1, take a total. Now this is very interesting because you are giving a condition outside the cell, outside the range, and you are taking a total of this range. Okay. So this is another. Now you can do count also. Count if this to this condition is Mumbai and the sum of these cells you want to take. Okay. So now these count if, sum if is very, very simple. Cannot read. Okay. Can I make it bigger? No, sorry, I can't make it bigger. Are you able to see this? Okay. Again, I do this. Sum if A3 to A12, condition is Mumbai, that is this condition I have put. And what I have to sum from Q1. So I have to take the cells from here, but condition is wherever there is Mumbai in this range of cells. How I made it bigger, all this is a separate session by itself. Okay. Okay. So yellow and orange may be a little difficult to read. So are we getting the idea? Basically, we are saying sum if this particular range has this condition and sum from this particular range. This is as simple as that. Okay, so we have seen this sum if, count if. So these are conditional totals. Now let us see how we can do conditional formatting also. So what we can do here is we can have conditional formatting. So now we take this entire range. Now we want to say format this entire range, but under certain conditions. So I say conditional formatting. Now this entire range, what I'm saying is format cells if amount is greater than value or formula I can give. Value is 100 and I want to make the background as red. So all cells greater than 100 will be red. Can you see this? This is also very useful when you want to highlight. Now we are seeing a very, very small sheet. If you are seeing a huge sheet, you will understand what all is possible. Okay, so what I did, I will repeat it. I'll cancel this. I have selected the entire sheet. Okay, I went to format. There is an option called conditional formatting. Okay, when I go into conditional formatting, it will show me the entire range D3 to G12, format cells, and then I will give the condition. If it is say less than say 100, less than 100, then I want to fill a particular color. maybe I'll like green. So what I did is, I say done. Now what I did is I said all cells which are less than 100, make it green. So now I can highlight whatever I want to see. Less than 100, more than this, I can give any conditions. If you notice here, when I'm doing conditional formatting, conditional formatting. So there is one rule, I can add multiple rules. I can add another rule also. So I'll go back to the same rule. What I said is D3 to G12, that is this cell to this cell. I have taken all the entire, if it is less than 100, you can make the background. I can say you can make the text also red. Okay, this is not so visible. On green, I can make it yellow. Whatever, I can format a different color for the text. I can format a different color for the background. I can make it bold. I can underline it. Whatever I want to do, I can give the formatting style. So what are the conditions that are there? Text contains this. It is empty. It is not empty. Date is before, date is after, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. All the conditions are available here. So in conditional formatting, what I can do is I can select an entire range, give a condition, and apply a particular format. Now there is an interesting thing here also. There is something called color scale. So when I say color scale, what it says is minimum value, I have a different color, midpoint is a different color, and maximum value is a different color. Now you can see shades. Can you see the shades? So wherever there is high, it is dark. Wherever there is low, it is white. I'm sorry, it is the other way around. Wherever it is dark, it is minimum, and wherever it is white, it is maximum. So darkest will be minimum. Slowly the shades will go on going up, and white is the maximum. Okay, so this is very, very useful, extremely useful. As we are working, always remember, we are working on a very, very small sheet. If you are working on a huge sheet which has 2000 rows and 10 columns or 20 columns, it is very, very useful. You can do all this at the click of a button. So conditional formatting is very simple. You select the range, or even without selecting the range, suppose I say, now see this, I can do something interesting. I can say, I can select this range. I can say format, conditional formatting. I can say single color, format rules, text contains. Pune, I will fill it with red color, and I will add another rule. Text contains Mumbai. Then I might want to color it blue. Okay. So now what I have done is, I have done 3 types of formatting. One is the numeric formatting, which is on a shaded level. I have done this text formatting, which is on a different level. Okay. So I can do conditional formatting for all my cells entirely in the sheet. So this is also very, very useful, especially as I told you, if it is going to be a large sheet, then it becomes very useful. You can do the entire formatting in the click of a button. Okay. This is interesting. Now, a lot of times we have this situation where we have these names. If you remember, we had trimmed the names. You remember the trim function equal to trim into bracket, and then we had given the cell, and before and after or in between, if there are additional spaces, they are eliminated. Now let us look at this sort of a function. we are selecting this entire range. Now what I want to do is I want to have first name and last name in different columns. This I don't like the names to be like this. Then maybe I might want to sort them based on first name, based on last name, etc., etc. So what I will do is I'll go to data. There is an option to split the cells, split cell text to columns. Can you see this second last option here? Split text to columns. So when I click on this, it says, how do we want to split automatically? Or I'll say split it based on space. Wherever there is a space, you go to the next column. Now see what happened. I have split the entire range into first name and last name. Now this is also very useful. What I have done is I have split the cell into two columns. It was in one column earlier. I have split it into two automatically. So now I can name this as first name column and this as the last name column. Okay. So again, we go back to the original. Only remember that if you have something here, you might just overwrite on it. So you can just say, right click here, insert one column, and then do this split business. So how I do it? I select the entire data cell, data, split text to columns, and detect it by a comma. If it is there is a comma in between, you can say detect a comma, semicolon, etc. This time we are using space. So what happened is we just changed this, and this cell was referring to this cell, and therefore only the first names have come in Hindi. Okay, this is also very, very useful. So you can split cells, you can combine cells also. So for combining cells, I'll use a different formula. There is concatenate. Now this is a little, but Excel also uses the same concatenate. Okay. Concatenate means what? You combine. Open the bracket. This cell, that is B1, comma, you want a space in between, so I'll put space into inverted commas, comma, and which is the next cell you want to add? This cell. And therefore now you are back to the original. So what formula did we use? Concatenate B3, comma, space, comma, C3. And then if you, of course, if you drag it down, then all the others also will come automatically. This is also extremely useful. So you can split the cells, you can concatenate the cells, you can combine the cells also. Okay. Now let us see a few other interesting things. You remember we had done this date function where we just put a date and put another date, and we said this minus this, and this is equal to this date minus this date, and it gives us the number of days between the two dates. Okay, so this is very simple. But suppose you are calculating interest up to today. Okay. Now, if you are calculating interest up to today, so every time you open the sheet, a different date has to come. Today will be 10th of July. Tomorrow, today will be 11th of July. So there is a function called equal to today. When you say equal to today and just open and close brackets, what will happen is it will give you the current date. So every time when you say this minus this, so you will say equal to this minus this, so it is 5 days. Tomorrow when you open this sheet, this today function will give you 11th of July, and therefore this will give you 6 days. Day after tomorrow, this will give you 12th of July and this will give you 7 days. So this is very useful when you have to manipulate the date as of today. So if it is an interest calculation, for example, you are talking to a supplier or you are talking to your banker, and every day you want to know what is the status. So every day this date will keep on changing to the current date. And once it is the current date, then automatically this date minus the previous date will give you the current number of days. So today is a very simple function, but very useful. Now, if you go to a bank, how do you specify date in US format? So date function, you can always, when you go to date function, you have the option to choose that type of function, number one. Number two is, if you have defined something in your computer, then the same format will be taken. Suppose you have defined in your default, in your computer itself, how you want to see the date. Then everywhere, whether in Excel, whether in Google Sheets, anywhere you type the date, it will be in the same function, in the same fashion. Now, this is also an interesting function, which I feel you must understand when you do interest calculations or EMI calculations. Ever done an EMI calculation in Excel or in anywhere else? Like whenever you are, if you are a banker or if you are an accountant or if you are even a lay user, and you go to the bank and you will say, I want to borrow 5 lakhs of rupees for 12 months and my rate of interest is say 10% or 12% or whatever. So what will be my monthly installment? So how do you calculate it? Any idea? Anybody has the idea of what function you use for calculating EMI? Can I see anything on the screen? So this is again a very interesting, very simple function. You come to any cell and you say there is a function called PMT. So what you are saying is PMT is per month. Because it is called PMT, yes, EMI calculator was the app that we were using. So check this PMT, that is per month, into bracket. You will first give the rate of interest, then you will give the period, and then you will give the principal amount. And the minute you press enter, you will get the per month, what is your installment. So if your principal was 5 lakhs, your per month installment of EMI would be 80,718 if the period was 12 months and the rate of interest was 12%. Okay. Now, if you change this, then all these things will keep on changing. If you say 60 months, then your period has changed. If you say instead of 12%, if your interest rate is 14%, then again your figure will change. So what you have to do is, again, we'll go back to the formula. The formula is very simple. You have 3 figures to look at: rate of interest, period, and principal. So you have rate of interest is 12%, period is 12, and principal is 5 lakhs. So what your formula is, PMT equal to PMT. All formulas are equal to PMT into bracket, rate of interest, period, and principal. So even when you go here and you say equal to PMT, Google Sheets will, you open the bracket, it will give you the entire formula, how you have to write it. Rate of interest, number of periods, present value. Present value is what is the amount that you are borrowing. And then these are further complications. Let us not get into it just now. So PMT, open bracket. The minute you say open bracket, you will see they will prompt you. It is rate of interest, comma, period, comma, principal amount. Enter. So this is your 80,718 is your EMI. So when you are a borrower, you will want to find the EMI. But when you are a lender, that is, if I am a banker, then I have to calculate IRR. What is IRR? IRR is internal rate of return. This is also a very simple formula. So what is IRR? Internal rate of return. So IRR, what we are saying is, if I give 5 lakhs today and I collect it over 12 months, and what did we calculate? EMI was 80,718. So I collect 80,718 per month. What will be my rate of return? What will I earn? I will earn 12%. So this is from the borrower's point of view. This is from the lender's point of view. IRR is how much I will make if I get 80,718 per month. So I will make 12%. So here it is ulta. I know what I am collecting, but I don't know what my interest rate is. Here I know my interest rate and the period and the amount that is lent, but I don't know how much I have to pay every month. So both EMI and IRR are two sides of the same coin. So you do EMI calculation or you do IRR calculation, it gives you a similar result. So in the first month, I am saying minus 5 lakhs, that is I am lending 5 lakhs and I am receiving 80,718 for the remaining 12 months. So what is the formula for IRR? I am saying it is very simple, IRR of this entire range. Okay, so the range is minus 5 lakhs in the first period, and I'm sorry, on 0 date, and then every period I am getting 80,718. So I'm just saying IRR into bracket age 57 to age 69. So the entire range IRR is 12%. Okay. So EMI and IRR calculations are very, very simple. You can do it on your own. No issues. You don't have to ask your banker. In the good old days, what used to happen? Banker used to sit with a chart and he used to say, boss, I don't know how it is calculated. I have got it on my chart. And this is the chart. You look at it in the chart and that is the correct figure. I don't know how it is calculated. But here now it is very, very simple for you to calculate EMI and IRR. Couple of other things we will learn. A lot of times we write, now this sheet I am just going a little on the side. I have written against each person, I have written their email IDs. Now, a lot of times we write an email ID. IRR formula is very simple, equal to IRR, open bracket, and then give the full range from which cell to which cell. It is very simple. There is no complication there. If you want to see it once again, we'll see it once again. What did I say? IRR. Age 57 to this, that's all, equal to, so my IRR formula is here, okay, equal to IRR from here to here. The first cell will be minus because I am lending and the remaining will be positive because I am receiving. Are we clear on this? Yes or no? So the IRR formula is very simple, equal to, so I can write the formula here again, equal to IRR, open bracket, and select this entire range and close the bracket. That's all. It will come to 12 only, and since it is a percentage, I will use the percentage format and it will come as percentage. Okay, great. So what I was saying here is that we have a lot of times we have this entire list of emails and sometimes the emails are wrong. So I want to find out whether these emails are properly constructed or not. Is it valid? So I will say there is a very simple formula. It says equal to is email. Is this an email? Open the bracket and give the cell. If it is a valid email, it will say true. Now I'll copy this formula and I'll find out which are not valid. So this is false. So what happened here is, see how an email is constructed. There is a prefix, then there is an @ sign, there is a suffix, and there is a dot something. Now this is not complete. So this is not a valid email. Okay. So it is false. Similarly, this @Hotmail, there is no .com. Or there might be something where even, for example, now @ sign is only missed out. So it becomes false. The formula is very simple. Is email equal to is email. So if it is an email, it will say true. If it is not an email, it will say false. That's all. .co.in. Okay, let's try. ABC @ something something .co.in. Okay. What do you think? It will be true or false? Okay. So .co.in is true. Yes, it is a valid email. But remember, see here the spelling of Yahoo is wrong. I'm sorry, not here. This is a false. Let us see. See this, the spelling of Gmail is wrong. gmailc.com. This the system will not be able to understand. It will only understand prefix, @ suffix, dot something. Okay, that's all. It will not know whether it is the spelling is right. And now, for example, now if I say .com here, this is true, correct? Now if I say Yahoo, I put 2, 3 more zeros, O's, it is still true because there can be, yes, it will accept it because the only test it does is prefix, @ suffix, dot something. Okay, what that something is, he doesn't understand. He will only understand whether it is prefix, @ suffix, dot something. Okay, so it's a very elementary way of checking whether the email addresses are properly constructed or not. Now, earlier we had also gone through one particular thing that when you are doing a Google Sheet, whether you can convert it back into Excel. So I'm just repeating for the benefit of those who are new today. You just say file, download as Excel or as open document. So you don't have to do any conversion. You can directly convert it as Excel file. Okay. Or you can have a CSV file or a tab separated values or whatever you wanted. Okay. The same thing is you can even send this entire thing. You don't have to go to your email client. You can just say email as attachment. So automatically this entire file will be emailed as an attachment straight away. So you don't have to worry about that. And one last thing for today, we will do something interesting. I'm copying this same sheet down below. Okay, I've copied the same sheet down below. Now what I want to do is I want to do data validation. Okay, so what is data validation? You have to validate the data. That is, the data cannot, suppose these are marks of a particular student. You cannot have more than 100 marks, correct? So here you can give, now I'm just selecting this entire range and I'm saying data validation. There is something called data validation. Okay. Now what I'm saying is criteria, cell range is this. Okay. List from a range. So list of items, date, etc., etc. So I'm not worried about that. I'm saying this, the criteria should be between I'm sorry, list of items number. Okay, so I'm saying the number should be between, I say in this case, because it is the sales figure, so I'd say between 100 and say 1000. On invalid data being entered, whether I should show a warning or I can just reject the input, and I can show a help text also. So the help text will say enter a number between 100 and 1000. So this is what we want him to enter. So when somebody is doing data entry, I'm saying save. Now what happens is, when I'm doing say 101 accepted, 200 accepted, 99, what it does is it stops me from entering any data which is less than 100 and more than 1000. So this is how you do validation. So whenever you are doing, suppose I say 1000, it will accept. But if I say 1001, it will not accept. Okay. So this is very useful when you are doing data entry for a range of cells and you want the data entry guy, even if he makes a mistake, it should not be allowed. Are we clear on this? How we did data validation? We selected the range where the data is coming. We went to data validation, and we said for this range, the criteria is number should be between 100 and 1000. Okay. If it is between 100 and 1000, you accept it. But if it is invalid, then you reject the input. There are certain cases where you may just show a warning and allow him to enter. But normally, when you are saying validation, means you have to reject the input. And when you reject the input, you can show some error message. You have to enter a number only between, or you can modify this message, okay, only between, whatever you want to write here. Or if it is sales, so you can say sales can be only between 100 and 1000. Okay, so when I'm making a mistake, suppose I'm writing 1001, I'm getting this error message. Sales can only be between 100 and 1000, and the input is not accepted at all. Now, this is also very, very cool. This is very useful for all the time. Whenever you're doing data entry and you want somebody, like for example, as I told you, the marks, it should be between 0 and 100 only. You can't give him 101 marks. So there can be no mistakes in data entry. Of course, within that, you can make mistakes. But this is an elementary way of controlling the data entry. So data validation is also very, very useful when we are doing entries in a particular sheet. Okay. Any questions for today? Before we go to our question of the day. There are a few advanced things which I may take on the fourth Friday this time. But this will be very, very useful. Can you link a cell to an external source like share price? Yes, you can do it, especially since Mr. Darukhanawala, since you are in the US, you can use Google Finance. And because Indian shares, there is a problem. But if you say equal to Google Finance, open brackets, and then you can give the name of the share, say it is Google only, and you can give the date 2020 0105. I think this is the format. Maybe this is If you look at this formula, you can get the share prices also. If you say Google Finance fetches securities information from Google Finance. Maybe. But I don't know the code for that. Google Finance into bracket, and then you can give, and here if you go to the help, it will give you the actual format. It says Google Finance. Oh, okay, GOOG is the code for Google. So you can say equal to GOOG. So let's copy this only. Price on a particular date. It gives you very beautifully. Oh, sorry. So you should know the stock code, and it will give you prices directly from the this thing. Okay, there is no this thing. Okay. So any other queries? So Google Finance you can use. Company name, you should know the ticker name, and it will give you the price. MSFT. Ticker is MSFT. Let me try without anything. Okay, so this is the current price of Microsoft. Okay, so what I did is Google Finance, and I put MSFT. Somebody knew the code for Microsoft, so it is giving me the current price of Microsoft. You can go and check it out, and then you can give date, and you can give a lot of other things: opening, closing, daily, for a period. You can have a lot of other things. You can do this masti, whatever you want to. But this is also very useful. I'm not too sure whether all the Indian prices are available. It should be available. Okay, so are you ready for the question of the day? Yes? It's an easy question. I will share my screen, and I will tell you what I'm looking for really, and then you can tell me what is the answer. So I go to my calendar. Okay, I go to my calendar. Okay, this is my calendar. Okay. Now I am asking you for a shortcut. Okay, so in calendar, you have a lot of shortcuts. You remember? So when you say W, you see week at a glance. When you say D, you see day at a glance. When you type Y, you see year at a glance. Correct? Now I want to know what is the shortcut to go to schedule view. Schedule view is looking something like this. Okay, so you see a schedule. What am I typing here? When I say Y, I am getting a year. When I am saying D, I am seeing this. When I am saying W, so what is the shortcut for schedule? No, it is not S. It is not Control S. It is not SCH. Agenda, no. E, SV, no. W, no. I am pressing something, but you can't see what I am pressing. So I am pressing something to give me this view. Okay. It is called schedule view, where I'm seeing the entire schedule in one sheet. Control Alt 5, spacebar, no. It is a little confusing because D is daily, day view. Y is yearly, year view. W is weekly, W view. But schedule view is something different. No. No, don't send me a private message. Let it be public. No. A is the right answer. Who's that? Rajesh Kadam. Rajesh Kadam is the winner. Anybody else has given A? No, Meeta, you are late. Rajesh Kadam was earlier than you. Anybody else has given A before this? Before Rajesh Kadam? Of course, now everybody is saying A because the right answer is A. Okay, so very simple. You must remember whenever you are in calendar, when you are in Google Calendar, the keyboard shortcuts are very simple. You just press the question mark key in the calendar. And you'll get all your shortcuts. Okay. Yes, just press the question mark key. Whenever you are in calendar, just press the question mark and you'll see all the shortcuts. So D is day, W is week, M is month, X is custom view, and A is schedule view, and Y is year view. Okay. So this is very simple. Rajesh Kadam is the winner for today. Rajesh Kadam, please send me your details, bank details, and we'll transfer your prize of 1,000 rupees to you right away. And this brings us to the end of today's session. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you, and wish you all the best. Stay safe and stay protected. And as the lockdown decreases, don't get too enthusiastic. Bye-bye and thank you and good night.